Quick disclaimer before we start. Everything in this video is my own personal opinion and analysis, not financial advice, and not a recommendation to buy or sell anything. Please do your own research before making any investment decision. Hello everyone, welcome back. Today is July 13th, 2026, and we're running our precision target verification scan on Japan. The same weekly pivot confluence strategy we just introduced for Canada, now applied to the Tokyo Stock Exchange, right after this week's session closed and the weekly pivot levels locked in. Quick refresher on how this works. Every stock has a weekly classic pivot point, calculated from last week's high, low, and close, giving a resistance 1 level, a mathematical ceiling for this week. We look for stocks that have climbed to within 90 to 100% of that ceiling. When Fibonacci and Camarilla pivot levels also cluster in that same zone, we call that confluence, a stronger signal. Analyst price target coverage, if available, adds a bonus. Today we scanned 3,921 Japanese stocks, and 90 candidates survived our 5 filters. From those 90, here are the cleanest top 15. And this list looks noticeably different from Canada's. 0 confluence names this time, 0 analyst coverage, and unlike Canada's mixed technical picture, every single one of today's 15 names shows a fully clean MACD signal with RSI clustered tightly in the healthy 57 to 66 range. A remarkably uniform, clean-looking list even without a single confluence hit. Also worth flagging up front, 0 of today's 15 names reached our top sharp target tier. Everyone landed in strong candidate instead, continuing the same low confirmation pattern we saw in Canada. Quick reminder, this is not investment advice, purely an educational breakdown of a systematic scan. Let's get into it. At the top of our list is 8253 Credit Saison, one of Japan's largest consumer credit card and consumer finance companies, issuing cards and providing installment credit to millions of Japanese consumers, with a business model that makes it a real barometer of Japanese household spending confidence. Price is 4,659, up 1.7% today, sitting at 97.5% of its weekly classic R1 of 4,776, right at the edge of breaking through, with the monthly R1 landing at that same 4,776 level. No analyst price target coverage in our data. Beta 0.85, slightly below market average, fairly typical for a large diversified consumer finance company. MACD positive, technical rating strong buy, RSI 65.6, getting toward the upper part of our healthy range. EBITDA up 18% year over year, though net income dipped 7%, with a 2.8% dividend yield. Score 45, our highest today, a genuine consumer finance bellwether, leading a remarkably clean, if confluence-free list. Second is 8157, Suzuki Denki, a Japanese electronics and electrical equipment distributor and systems integration company, supplying industrial and commercial clients with equipment and technical services rather than manufacturing its own hardware. Price is 4,045, down 0.3% today, sitting at 97.9% of its weekly classic R1 of 4,134, with the monthly R1 landing at that same level. No analyst coverage. Beta 0.85, slightly below market average. MACD positive, rating buy, RSI 58.3 healthy, comfortably mid-range. EBITDA up 20%, net income up a strong 36%, with a 3.1% dividend yield. Score 42, a distribution and services name with genuinely solid earnings growth behind a fairly modest technical score. Third is 8616, Tokai Tokyo Financial Holdings, a Japanese securities brokerage and financial services group providing investment and wealth management services primarily in the Chubu region around Nagoya. Price is 774, down 0.3% today, sitting at 98% of its weekly classic R1 of 790, with the monthly R1 at that same level, about as close to the ceiling as a stock can get without breaking through. No analyst coverage. Beta 0.81, slightly below market average. MACD positive, rating buy, RSI 63.4, getting toward the upper part of our healthy range. EBITDA up 27%, net income up a strong 50% with a solid 6.4% dividend yield, one of the stronger income profiles on today's list. Score 42. A regional Japanese brokerage with both a tight pivot setup and genuinely strong recent earnings. Fourth is 8159 Tachibana Elitech, an electronics and industrial equipment trading and distribution company, connecting manufacturers with the factories and businesses that need their components and machinery across Japan. Price is 3,330, down 1.0% today, sitting at 95% of its weekly classic R1 of 3,504, with the monthly R1 at that same level. No analyst coverage. Beta 0.86, slightly below market average. mcap positive, technical rating strong buy, RSI 60, healthy dead center. EBITDA down 6%, but net income still up 5% with a 3% dividend yield. Score 40. An industrial distribution name showing resilient earnings despite softer EBITDA. Fifth is 3563, Food and Life Companies, the operator behind Sushiro, one of Japan's largest and most popular conveyor belt sushi restaurant chains, with locations across Japan and a growing international footprint. Price is 5,180, up a huge 5.7% today, by far the best daily move on today's entire list, sitting at an extremely tight 99.7% of its weekly classic R1 of 5,095, with the monthly R1 at that same level. This stock is about as close to breaking through its weekly ceiling as any name will cover today. No analyst coverage. Beta 0.68, below market average, fairly defensive for a consumer dining name. mcap positive, technical rating strong buy, RSI 57.3, healthy, comfortably mid-range. EBITDA up 29%, net income up a strong 50%, though dividend yield is a modest 0.4%. Score 39. A genuinely recognizable consumer brand for many viewers, riding today's single biggest daily move on real earnings strength behind it. Sixth is 9324 Yasuda Logistics, a Japanese freight, warehousing, and logistics company moving goods across Japan's supply chains for industrial and commercial clients. Price is 2,473, up 0.8% today, sitting at 98.8% of its weekly classic R1 of 2,503, with the monthly R1 at that same tight level. No analyst coverage. Beta 0.79, below market average. mcap positive, technical rating strong buy, RSI 65.3, upper part of our healthy range. EBITDA up 11% and net income up a massive 140% year over year. One of the strongest earnings numbers on today's entire list, with a 2.9% dividend yield. Score 39. A logistics name with a remarkably strong net income number hiding behind a fairly modest headline score. Seventh is 2170, Lincoln Motivation, a Japanese human resources and organizational consulting company helping businesses with hiring, corporate culture, and employee engagement services. Price is 586, up 0.2% today, sitting at 95.2% of its weekly classic R1 of 616, with the monthly R1 at that same level. No analyst coverage. Beta 0.83, slightly below market average. mcap positive, rating buy, RSI 63.9, upper part of our healthy range. EBITDA down 1%, but net income down a sharper 55%, worth flagging as one of the weaker earnings pictures on today's list despite a clean technical setup. Score 37. A corporate services name where the chart looks cleaner than the underlying earnings trend right now. Eighth is 4151 Kyowa Kirin, a major Japanese pharmaceutical company with genuine global reach, developing treatments in oncology, nephrology, and rare disease categories, and one of the larger market cap names on today's list. Price is 2,631, down 0.4% today, sitting at 93.5% of its weekly classic R1 of 2,814, with the monthly R1 at that same level. No analyst coverage. Beta 1.4. Essentially market average. mcap positive, rating buy, RSI 58.6. Healthy, comfortably mid-range. EBITDA up 25%, net income up a strong 42%, with a 2.5% dividend yield, score 37. A globally significant pharmaceutical name with genuinely strong earnings growth behind a modest daily move. Ninth is 5989H1, a Japanese manufacturer of automotive body components and structural parts, supplying major vehicle manufacturers with chassis and body frame components. Price is 1,609, down 0.6% today, sitting at 95.8% of its weekly classic R1 of 680, with the monthly R1 at that same level. No analyst coverage. Beta 1.11, close to market average, mcap positive, rating buy, RSI 60.5. Healthy, comfortably mid-range. EBITDA up 10%, net income up a modest 2%, with a 4.0% dividend yield, score 37. An auto parts supplier with a clean pivot setup and a solid if unspectacular earnings picture. 10th is 7723 Aichi Tokei Denki, a Japanese manufacturer of measurement instruments and metering equipment, including water meters and industrial measurement devices used in utility and infrastructure applications. Price is 3,025, down 1.0% today, sitting at 93.5% of its weekly classic R1 of 3,235, with the monthly R1 at that same level. No analyst coverage, beta 0.85. Slightly below market average, MACD positive, rating buy, RSI 58 point healthy, comfortably mid-range, EBITDA up 16%, net income up a strong 36% with a 3.7% dividend yield, score 37. A niche industrial metering name with solid, consistent earnings growth. 11th is 8604, Nomura Holdings, Japan's largest investment bank and securities brokerage, a genuinely globally recognized financial institution with operations spanning trading, asset management, and investment banking worldwide, and by far the largest company on today's entire list. Price is 1,448, down 1.1% today, sitting at 94% of its weekly classic R1 of 1,541, with the monthly R1 at that same level. No analyst coverage. Beta 1.38, one of the higher beta names on today's list, fairly typical for a large investment bank whose earnings are tied to trading and capital markets activity. MACD positive, rating buy, RSI 62.5, upper mid-healthy range, EBITDA up 14%, net income up 6% with a 3.3% dividend yield, score 37. Japan's flagship investment bank and the single largest name we'll cover on today's entire list. 12th is 3,097. Monogatari Corporation, a Japanese restaurant chain operator running multiple dining brands across the country, another consumer-facing name alongside food and life companies from earlier in our list. Price is 4,980, essentially flat today at minus 0.1%, sitting at an extremely tight 99.3% of its weekly classic R1 of 5,013, with the monthly R1 at that same level. No analyst coverage, beta 0.32 right at the floor of our acceptable range, remarkably low volatility for a consumer dining name, MACD positive, rating buy, RSI 58.4 healthy, comfortably mid-range, EBITDA up 32%, net income up 25%, though dividend yield is a modest 0.8%, score 36. Our second restaurant sector name today, sitting right at the edge of its weekly ceiling with genuinely strong earnings growth behind it. 13th is 3673 Broadleaf, a Japanese software company providing IT systems for the automotive aftermarket and repair shop industry, a genuine niche software player. Price is 430, up 1.4 today, sitting at an extremely tight 99.3% of its weekly classic R1 of 433, with the monthly R1 at that same level. And here's the surprising part. This is the only stock on today's entire list with a negative beta, at negative 0.5, meaning it has actually tended to move in the opposite direction from the broader Japanese market recently, a genuine statistical rarity worth noting. No analyst coverage, MACD positive, rating buy, RSI 57.7, healthy, comfortably mid-range, EBITDA up a massive 44%, and net income up an enormous 176% year-over-year, one of the strongest earnings stories on today's entire list. Score 36. A niche automotive software name with a genuinely unusual negative beta profile and explosive recent earnings growth. 14th is 3863, Nippon Paper Industries, one of Japan's largest paper and pulp manufacturers, with operations spanning printing paper, packaging materials, and increasingly biomass and specialty chemical products as the traditional paper industry diversifies. Price is 1,345, up 1.4% today, sitting at an extremely tight 99.5% of its weekly classic R1 of 1,352, with the monthly R1 at that same level. No analyst coverage. Beta 0.49, well below market average, fairly typical for a legacy industrial materials producer. MACD positive, rating buy, RSI 61.8, upper mid-healthy range. EBITDA up a modest 2%, but net income up a massive 159%, a striking gap between the two metrics, often a sign of one-off gains or cost reductions below the operating line. Score 36, a traditional Japanese industrial name showing surprisingly strong bottom-line growth. Our 15th and final name today is 4202 Daicel Corporation, a diversified Japanese chemical company producing everything from automotive safety components like airbag inflators to specialty plastics and pharmaceutical materials. price is 1,412, up 0.7% today, sitting at 92.4% of its weekly classic R1 of 528, the widest gap to target on today's entire list, with the monthly R1 at that same level. No analyst coverage. Beta 1.2, essentially exactly market average. MACD positive, technical rating strong buy, RSI 62.2, upper mid healthy range. EBITDA down 17% and net income down a sharp 79%, the weakest earnings picture on today's entire list, despite the strong buy technical rating. Score 36, closing out our top 15. A diversified chemicals name where the technical setup and recent earnings trend are telling two very different stories, worth digging into before drawing conclusions. Let's step back and look at the full picture. 4 big observations from today's scan. First, zero Confluence, zero analyst coverage, zero top tier. Unlike Canada's 5 Confluence names, not a single one of today's 15 Japanese names showed pivot Confluence, none had analyst coverage, and none reached our top sharp target tier, the most confirmation-light list this strategy has produced yet. Second, a remarkably clean, uniform technical picture. Despite that lack of confluence, every single name today shows a fully positive MACD signal with RSI tightly clustered between 57 and 66, no caution flags anywhere, a notably tidy list even without the extra confirmation layers. Third, one genuine statistical rarity. Broadleaf at position 13 was the only name on today's list with a negative beta, meaning it's recently moved opposite to the broader market, worth remembering as a rare data point. Fourth, earnings and technicals don't always agree. Dicel Corporation closed out our list with a strong buy rating, sitting right alongside a 79% net income decline, a good reminder to always check the fundamentals behind a clean-looking chart. Now, for a very important section. Please listen carefully. Today's scan is part of our Precision Target family, built around weekly pivot proximity. It does not predict when a stock reaches that target. With zero Confluence names and zero analyst coverage today, this list carries less external confirmation than usual, which is itself worth factoring into how much weight you give any single name here. Several names today, like Link and Motivation and Dicel Corporation, showed a clean technical setup sitting alongside a genuinely weak recent earnings trend. A clean chart alone is never the full picture. This program is not investment advice. Everything shared here is for educational and informational purposes only. Always do your own research and consult a licensed professional before making any investment decision. That wraps up today's Japan Precision Target Scan, featuring a remarkably clean but confirmation-light list, Sushiro's parent company posting today's biggest move, and a genuine negative beta rarity in broadleaf. If you found this useful, please like and subscribe. We're now covering markets across North America, Asia, and crypto, with more on the way. Let me know in the comments which of these 15 names you want us to track going forward. Take care of yourselves, and see you next time as informed investors.